From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good afternoon from Tel Aviv, Israel. Good morning to everyone tuning in. It's great to be with y'all this Wednesday morning, July 16th, 2025. I hope everyone's doing well on the other side of the pond. So we had a bunch of technical difficulties. I want to start off by saying that yesterday, the mic didn't align properly. It sounded like we were speaking in a tunnel. We weren't. Today, we spent a lot of time. I'll say I spent a lot of time, and kudos to my wife and son for their great understanding of allowing me to really dig into it. Internet connection where I'm at isn't the best at the moment. That is in the process of getting solved, but the sound is way better and the image is way better. It doesn't look like too much sun. The beach is behind me. I wanted to give you that view. I wanted y'all to just get a little bit of that Tel Aviv beach life. That's just bar none one of the best in the world. It's my favorite place to be. But fortunately, that glare and everything yesterday was not our best produced product, and I apologize for that sincerely. Thank you all for your understanding, and we are making sure to not let that happen again. Packed show this morning. We're going to be talking a lot about China, Google AI, and a great finding, as well as some really significant supply chain challenges and some updates. So we'll get on all of that on this morning's show. Before we get started, though, for everyone enjoying their cup of coffee back home, coffee cup cheers. For everyone who's tuning in from Israel or anywhere else in the world, if it's in the afternoon, it's 4 o'clock p.m. It's 4 p.m. here, 4:04 p.m. So it's right before. I mean, dinner here is until 7-8, but and nonetheless, coffee cup cheers for all of y'all. Let's get right into this morning's show because we have a lot to talk about. CyberHubPodcast.com. Find all the latest there. And now we get to some news on China. So we're going to start off with Vault Typhoon and then Salt Typhoon. Then we're going to move into some threats and all of that. We'll get into some updates as well as some good guys prevail today. So senior cybersecurity officials at the National Security Agency and FBI addressing some of the success they've had in taking care of Chinese cyber campaigns that targeted U.S. critical infrastructure. All this happened at Fordham University in New York City on Tuesday of this week. Experts spoke at length about Beijing's so-called various Typhoon campaigns. Christina Walter, the director of NSA Cybersecurity Collaboration Center, focusing on Vault Typhoon, an effort by Chinese actors to pre-position themselves on U.S. critical infrastructure for a disruptive or destructive cyber attack in the event of a kinetic conflict centered around Taiwan. Or, folks, I know a lot of people talk about Taiwan. If you haven't read the book, China's 100-Year Plan, you'll understand that China sees itself as becoming the next superpower, the next empire. They believe in exporting their communism. They do that through, obviously, TikTok is one way that they do it. TikTok in China is very different than TikTok for the rest of the world. They're dumbing down the population significantly. You see that with what's happening in New York City, with the mayor race there, and so much more. There's so much to that China is a significant geopolitical threat to the United States. It's a significant geopolitical threat to Western civilization as a whole. Any denial of that is pure idiocracy at this point. It's ignoring a significant threat facing you. And the national security apparatus in the United States has for years been sounding the alarm. The political leadership on both sides of the aisle hasn't really empowered the defense apparatus to take care of this threat. Now, mind you, not everyone in the defense apparatus share this. We're not going to get into a political debate here, but nonetheless, China does have a significant cybersecurity and cyber espionage threat actor groups that are all state-sponsored. They all operate with the permission of the Chinese Communist Party, part of the 100-Year China Plan, and part of really tearing down the West and Western civilization to the rise of Chinese communism around the world. According to Christina Walter, the good news is that they really failed. They wanted to persist in domestic networks very quietly for a long time. So if that and when they needed to disrupt those networks, they could. They were not successful in that goal. So Ms. Walter here brings up a great point. Yes, they were able to get in. And again, threat actors, for those that are not cybersecurity practitioners, you may not understand this. I did a webinar yesterday with Michael Coates, the former CISO at Twitter, former CISO at Mozilla, and the president of OWASP. And he said something. He goes, as practitioners, we have to be right 100% of the time. Threat actors have to be persistent and get it right once. And then once they're in, they create what they do. And so the Chinese tried, developed. They spent years culminating all these tools, trying to find ways into there. And then they got in, hoping that they would be able to accomplish the goal of being in these networks undetected. And then when the day came, they would be able to launch a surprise attack on the United States. And in being found and detected, that mission failed. And now we know what they're targeting. So now we know what to look for. And now they have to go and spend more time, more tools, more development to try to get that back, knowing that we're looking at it as well. So there is a win for the US there. And we, with the private sector, with the FBI, found them, understood how they were using the operating systems, how they're using legitimate credentials to maintain persistence, and equipped the entire private sector and US government to hunt for them and detect them. Walter didn't offer further details about those efforts. She said that she and the NSA and other agencies released the public advisories to critical infrastructure owners, and a lot of them reached out. Brett Leatherman, who was recently appointed assistant director for cyber at the FBI, echoed those remarks and also noted that Typhoon was specifically focused on critical infrastructure centered around the U.S. Navy, particularly in communities like Guam, where they saw that if they're able to disrupt the Navy from being able to respond, that would give them enough time to really accomplish their mission in Taiwan. And by the way, by us knowing that now, the Navy is able to prepare and deploy from multiple places, not just Guam, but potentially from South Korea, potentially from Japan. And so they build a plan centered around a potential disruption. And so now their entire kind of idea of taking Taiwan has and kind of using cyber kinetic warfare in cyber warfare in that scenario is gone. And that's, again, significant. So even if you're not dismantling that network, we're never going to dismantle the CCP hacking apparatus. CCP stands for the Chinese Communist Party. But if you can bring real relief to victim, you're also protecting national security by doing that. And that's why public attribution is so important when it comes to the CCP. So again, Leatherman describes FBI's efforts taking down botnets and so much more, as well as the recent Integrity Technology Group launching a DDoS attack against FBI infrastructure. They were able to gain control of those bots again. So again, showing you just the cat and mouse game that continues there as well. And so that's significant, and that's coming out of the NSA and FBI. So is it all doom and gloom like many people want to make it seem like? I'm not buying it, but enough on this. Let's get into Salt Typhoon here, because this is a bit more serious. Salt Typhoon was previously accused of hacking U.S. telecom giants like AT&T, Verizon, along with Lumen and many others in Canada and other parts of the world. Last month, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity and the FBI warning that it targeted telecom providers in Canada, stealing call records and private communication. We now know that Salt Typhoon was also able to hack into some U.S. government infrastructure and into specific National Guard apparatus as well. The compromise of the National Guard networks, according to the DoD, could undermine local efforts to protect critical infrastructure against cyber attacks, as the National Guard units in 14 states are integrated with centers responsible for threat intelligence, and the unit in one state provides cyber defense activities. So by being able to access the Army National Guard networks in these states could include information on state of cyber defense posture, as well as PII and work location of state cybersecurity personnel, data that could be used in future targeting efforts. And so if you've been a victim of this type of attack, you definitely want to make sure you address that by changing all of your information, by updating it. Obviously, you can't change your social security number or anything like that, but you know that. And by the way, initial access that they exploited were Cisco and Palo Alto edge devices, including some CVEs from 2018, 2023, and 2024, according to the report. So we see those attacks there. So China remains persistent looking. And again, this is old. This is Salt Typhoon. We don't know the full-fledged of Salt Typhoon. And by the way, there's a senator holding up the nomination as assistant director for these files. And we still see that, we still don't have a director at CISA because that's being held up. And that's the senator from Oregon. So y'all can feel free to call up his office and just bug him about it as much as humanly possible. In AI news, Google is saying Big Sleep, their AI tool, found a bug, a 0-day, that attackers were preparing to use. Late last year, Google announced the AI agent Big Sleep, a project that evolved out of work on vulnerability research assisted by LLMs done by Google Project Zero and Google DeepMind. The tool actively searches and finds unknown security vulnerabilities in software. Yesterday, Google said Big Sleep managed to discover CVE 2025-69 or 65, a critical security flaw that Google said was only known to threat actors and was at risk of being exploited. The vulnerability itself impacted SQLite, which is an open source database engine popular among developers. Google claims it was able to actually predict that a vulnerability was imminently going to be used and was able to cut it off beforehand. They believe this is the first time an AI agent has been used to directly foil efforts to exploit a vulnerability in the wild. Google spokesperson telling Recorded Future News that the company's threat intelligence group was able to identify artifacts indicating the threat actors were staging a 0-day and could not immediately identify the vulnerability. The limited indicators were passed along to other Google team members at the 0-day initiative who leveraged Big Sleep to isolate the vulnerability the adversary was preparing to exploit in their operations. The company declined to elaborate on who the threat actors were or what indicators were discovered, but showing you that, AI powered effectively could really bring a lot of positive things to many of us in cybersecurity. Here's one example of it. Don't fear it, embrace it, go with it. It's there. Cloudflare on Tuesday published its DDoS threat report for the second quarter of 2025, saying it says that the number of attacks it blocked in the first half of this year exceeded all the attacks mitigated in 2024. So if anyone said DDoS attacks are dead, just take him out back and beat them at this point. We're seeing more and more DDoS attacks. Obviously, China was once again the most targeted country. It was followed by Brazil, Germany, with Russia and Vietnam also jumping into the top 10. Organizations and telecom sectors were the most targeted, followed by internet company and IT firms. One surprising entry in the top 10 is agriculture, which jumped from 38th place to the 8th place in Q2. As for attack sources, Indonesia was the number one source, followed by Singapore, Hong Kong, Argentina, and Ukraine. More than 70% of the attacks were powered by known botnets. Cloudflare highlighted some of the types of DDoS attacks seen in the second quarter. The list included attacks targeting servers associated with T-World's shooter game, the Demon Bot botnet, powered by IoT and other Linux systems, and flood attacks leveraging devices running the VxWorks RTOS. So don't fall asleep on DDoS attacks. North Korean threat actor planted 67 malicious packages in NPM online repository, delivering new malware loader called XOR Index to developer systems. The packages were downloaded more than 17,000 times and were discovered by researchers at package security platform Socket, and who assessed them to be part of a continued contagious interview operation. Socket researchers say the campaign follows threat activity detected since April. Last month, the same threat actor infiltrated NPM with 35 packages that dropped information stealers and backdoors onto developer devices. Again, supply chain. And you'll see the developer packages here. We'll have these available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com after the show. Google on Tuesday announced a fresh set of Chrome security updates that resolve 6 vulnerabilities, including one being exploited in the wild. That 0-day bug is CVE 2025-6558, and it's an incorrect validation of untrusted input in the browser's ANGLE and GPU components. ANGLE is short for Almost Native Graphics Layer Engine. It's open source cross-platform graphics engine used as a default WebGL backend in both Chrome and Firefox on Windows. According to the NIST advisory, successful exploitation of the flaw could allow remote attackers to escape the browser sandbox via crafted HTML pages. Google is aware that an exploit does exist in the wild, so you want to make sure you get that patched up. An international law enforcement action dismantled a Romanian ransomware gang known as DiskStation, which encrypted the system of several companies in the Lombardy region, paralyzing their business. The law enforcement operation, codenamed Operation Elysius, was coordinated by Europol, also involved police forces in France and Romania. DiskStation is a DiskStation. I don't know why I said that. Is a ransomware operation that targeted Synology NOS devices, which are commonly used by companies for centralized file storage and sharing, as well as data backup and recovery and general content hosting. The ransomware operation's been targeting these NOS devices worldwide since 2021 under various names, including DiskStation Security, Quick Security, Legendary Disk Security, 7 Even Security, and Umbrella Security. The attacks targeted these internet-exposed NAS devices whose files were encrypted, demanding ransom payments ranging from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's now been disrupted. Australia making a progress on beefing up their OT cybersecurity standard, finally adopting the internationally recognized IEC 62443 series as their national standard and branding it locally as AS for Australia, IEC 62443. And so good for Australia. The standard itself lies in its flexibility. It breaks down complex OT landscape into components tailored for three main audiences: the asset owners, the service providers, and the product suppliers. And so Australia now getting a focus on their OT, establishing a standard, which will become the national standard for OT there, which is good news there as well. And finally, the former U.S. soldier accused of hacking into AT&T and Verizon system and leaking presidential call logs has now pled guilty to fraud and identity theft charges, according to the Department of Justice. Court documents say Cameron John Wagenius, 21, engaged in hacking and extortion activities between April of 2023 and December of 2024, while still in active duty in the U.S. Army under the nickname Kyber Phantom. Wagenius and his co-conspirators aim to defraud at least 10 organizations after obtaining login credentials for their networks. They did exfiltrate data from compromised networks, extorting the victims both via private communication and on public forums, threatening to publish the stolen information on breach forums and XSS.is. According to court documents, the suspects also offered the data for sale on these forums and successfully sold some of it. The former U.S. Army soldier and his co-conspirators attempted to extort over $1 million from the victim companies, according to the DOJ. He was arrested in December of 2024, pled guilty to wire fraud, conspiracy, and extortion attempts, which carry up to 20 years and 5 years in prison. So he's pled guilty to that. His co-conspirators, a Canadian national, was also arrested, and he's connected to the accounts where they were able to hack into customer accounts on Snowflake to do just that. Snowflake was not breached, but some customers had their username and passwords available. They didn't have MFA, and so people were able to get into their Snowflake incidents. Snowflake was not compromised during that breach. So we'll leave that there. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest news. Until then, make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, comment. Check out CyberHubPodcast.com for all the latest. Have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.